And welcome back to the program as we get started with this week's set of features. And our first one is one we want to share with you of a Choctaw citizen. Miss Diane Burris is up in Tulsa with Glad Wag Service Dog Training Center. Now, a lot of people out there have seen service dogs before. They help with all kinds of things, a number of different things, including even for people with PTSD. I'll go into that a little bit in the story, but Glad Wag's Service Dog Training Center, Diane Burris, a Choctaw citizen. So, you know, we go out there and we meet all kinds of people, and we like to get different features of what our Native American citizens are doing right here in Oklahoma. This is another exceptional story about that. This is an interesting one because Darren DeLon, actually one of our reporters from the Muskogee Nation News, went out with our own Devaney Luxinger and reported on this story. He'll have a feature on it coming up in the Muskogee Nation News, so look for that. But here's Diane Burris, a Choctaw citizen, and her service dogs.
Diane Burris, I'm Choctaw. I am retired from being disabled. I have PTSD. With PTSD, you eventually develop other medical conditions, to which I also have. I was a consultant to small businesses, and I was a net profit specialist, so I could take a business that was not making the amount of money they wanted and help them build up to the amount that they needed. I miss it, but now I do other things, one of which is helping to train service dogs. And I specialize in PTSD dogs for veterans. With PTSD, you can have panic attacks. With the panic attacks, a lot of times you fall to the ground. When you fall to the ground, you cannot get back up. Your legs don't work, nothing works. He will bring me my medicine. He will go to the ice box, he will open it, bring me a bottle of water so I can take my medicine. And then he will lay on top of me to help me calm down. And he will stay with me and he will mess with me until I come out of it. It's the same thing with night terrors. He'll get up, he'll turn on the light, he'll get up in the bed and wake me up, which is, anybody with PTSD can tell you that's not always a smart thing to do, but he knows how to do it. And then he will do the same thing. He will mess with me until it passes. And then he'll get off the bed and let me go back to sleep. In public, aside from allowing me to be able to get out in public because I have him there, if I get nervous around a bunch of people, which happens, people standing over me is one of my things. And he will stand in front of me when people get too close. And I call it front and center is the command for him. And he'll just stand in front of me and keep the distance between people getting too close to me so I don't get a trigger and go into a panic attack. And he does stuff like that. If people come up too close behind me, he will back up and get behind me a little bit. And he stays beside me so that he's always there to hold on to me if I need him. He has a balance harness. A lot of people with PTSD, if they've had head injuries, do have vertigo. And so he helps me there so that if I fall, I can get picked up easy. He also is taught to steady me so I don't fall, which makes a big difference. With PTSD, you do get other conditions. It's just common, the stress is so high. And I began having heart problems. And with that, he became my heart dog. So he is a cardiac dog as well now, and he monitors my heart. And if I have diastolic heart failure, he can tell me 45 minutes in advance. I can be in the hospital emergency room on the gurney hooked up before it happens. That's big. When it started, I couldn't talk. I had a lot of physical pain. I've got a lot of damage to my body. couldn't walk, couldn't do a whole lot of anything, could not go out my front door. I would go to the door, I would look out, and that's as far as I could get. When they sent me to Marge, my mom actually came in and took me and drove me up to the training center. And I sat there and she looked at him. And of course, my dog's a lab. And he had all these problems because I'd been doing everything wrong for about 18 months. And I went through other trainers, but they were not service dog trainers, okay? And she finally told me, says, well, he's already working, doing the things I need as a PTSD dog. Says, but he only has 3 problems. She goes, he's a lab, he's a lab, and he's a lab. And she worked with him, and in 6 months, she undid the damage I had done in 18. And he became a functioning in public service dog again. And I got to go outside. It takes a lot to learn. It's not something you can just pick up and do. Any kind of dog training, I discovered after learning a lot, is not just teaching them how to do things, it is how to manage a dog. And management of your service dog is critical to keeping them in shape and in being able to do the things they need to do. If you don't do it right, they will lose their ability to work. So you have to learn that first. And then you have to learn how to not just train the dog to do it, but how to train the people to be able to do it and to maintain it. Service dogs are a commitment. I mean, it's like being attached to your hip, but it is life-changing.
I'm Marge Satterfield. I'm the president and master trainer of Gladwag Service Dogs and owner of Marge the Dog Trainer. I've been training dogs professionally since 1974, and so I apprenticed in the 80s at San Rafael School for the Blind, and then Freedom Service Dogs in Colorado, and Hearing Dogs International. I was donating dogs to the School for the Blind, German Shepherds, and I've always had an interest in dogs working on any level, so I just went out and they took me on as an apprentice, and it was wonderful. I just spent 6 weeks there. It was great. So I just always was interested in that. Since a kid, actually, but when they started training service dogs on different levels, guide dogs have been around for over 100 years, and I suppose in the late 70s, maybe early 80s, they started to use dogs for people in wheelchairs, and then it branched out to hearing dogs, and then now we are able to train dogs for all kinds of disabilities because dogs can do anything. We are different from a large number of service dog training facilities because we take all of our dogs from shelters, and I usually try to get them from high kill shelters. We find dogs on the street. We get them from all over. Our overhead increases substantially if we were to have a breeding program. And I get so many great dogs from all kinds of shelters, and there is just no reason for me to breed dogs to be service dogs. So I test 35 dogs to get one service dog, though. It's not like I just go to the shelter and go, oh, I'll take those 3. It's a formula. If I'm looking for a diabetic alert dog or a seizure alert dog, those dogs have to really have good sniffer work instinct. So I do a lot of nose work testing on those kind of dogs. If I need a PTSD dog or a psychiatric service dog or an autism dog, I want the calmest dog I can find, because if I've got somebody that's anxious or a child that's having a meltdown, I need a dog that can just step in and be really calm. So I look for really calm dogs. So I usually go with the person in mind. I've already interviewed them, and I know I'm looking for a PTSD dog or what I'm looking for, and so that's kind of what I survey around to look for and test for. It's life-changing. There's now documentation on psychiatric service dogs, which include PTSD dogs, any type of mental illness. The decrease in having to take medication, sometimes it goes away completely. The decrease in suicide, which, if we could provide every veteran with a service dog, our suicide rate would disappear. And so it's been well documented, probably the last 10 years, about how valuable psychiatric service dogs are. Not only for veterans, of course, but for anybody. The mental health community is terribly underserved, and having service dogs recommended for them, and it's so life-changing. They can get out of the house, they can get a job, they can be normal, as you can be. But so it's amazing. I don't even have any words for it other than I can just see the changes in my clients. Like Diane's been phenomenal. They have that centering being with them that helps them on all walks of life. It's sometimes you got to get up to take them out, so you got to get up out of your bed. People are more welcoming to you. By the same token, you kind of have to fight people off from petting your dogs, so sometimes that's really stressful if you're anxious being out in public anyway and someone's trying to prevent you from coming in because you have a dog that maybe doesn't look like a traditional service dog. So that can be an issue, but I have no words for it. It's just amazing. It's just amazing.